All right, now that we know a little bit about resolution, I'm going to show you how it applies to Photoshop and what you need to know when you're working with your images. So technically, we try to work with images that are 300 resolution because most of the time if it's a 300 resolution image, we know that the pixel dimensions are probably going to be pretty good for it, because to be honest, it's the pixel dimensions along with the resolution that you need to worry about. It's not just all or none, because for instance, my Canon camera shoots at only 72 pixel resolution. However, because the pixel dimensions are set so high, I can still take a 72-inch image and I can print it 20 inches by 40 inches and it still be in good quality because it's still capturing a high level dimension because it's a 10 megapixel camera. So that's where it gets a little confusing. So I'm going to show you in Photoshop a little bit about how to resample and a few other things. So let's go ahead and go to Photoshop and I'm going to open up an image. I'm going to show you first of all how you would check your image resolution. So you go to image size. So like I said, in the past, somebody would look at 72 and be like, oh, that's a really small image. Actually, no, it's really not, because the pixel dimensions, there's 2,304 crossed and 3,456 down, which is decent. What that means is if I print it at 72 resolution, I could print it all the way to 32 inches by 48 inches, which is huge. But the problem is most printers will need your PPIs, your pixels per inch, to be set at a resolution of 300. So let me show you what happens here. If I resample my image, which it's going to lock the number of pixels per inch, and I'll explain that in a second. If I were to increase this to 300, so I technically can increase this to 300, but notice now it resamples this because now it's saying the biggest I can print this is a 7-inch by 11-inch photo, and it still have the same visual quality. So that's why I said, like, even though before it was only 72, because the pixel dimensions were so wide, it still was a fairly good image. So what I would do if you have an image, so let me go to the internet. Okay. So when you're sampling and looking for a photo, if you're getting it from the image or internet or wherever you're getting it from, you'll notice that you should be able to find the pixels per inch. So this is a 500 by 500, which is not very many pixels. 500 by 500 is pretty small. You need something in the thousands, to be honest. So I'll show you. So if I'm going to copy this, and I go back to Photoshop, I'm just going to put it into a new document here. So if I go to my image size, so it's only 500. So if I hit resample, notice even at 72 resolution, because it's only 500 by 500 pixels, at best, I can only print this at 6 by 6 inch, which is pretty small. If I were to send this to the printer, which you have to change it, you have to. So if I'm sending this to a printer, I'm going to change my resolution to 300. Now notice this image, if I were to send it, it's telling me I really shouldn't print it any bigger than 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. That's a really small picture. So I would check that out. So if you pull an image and you're like, is this going to pixelate when I print it? Because that's the problem, is you can't always tell on a screen if it's going to pixelate when you send it to a printer. Change your resolution to 300. Make sure you uncheck that resample. I'll show you what happens if you don't uncheck the resample. So if I don't uncheck this and I manually change it, it's going to increase it up here. It's going to increase it into the 1,000 range like I told you. The problem is it's artificially increasing it. You can't really change the resolution after the camera has taken the photo because it's already captured all the different data that's there. What happens is if I artificially increase this and I don't uncheck the resample, so I don't constrain the pixel dimensions, the computer, so if I click OK, it's going to add in all these extra pixels to get you there. But notice now the quality is really bad because what it did is it looked in this area. So I'm going to zoom in really tight. Okay. So what it did is it looked at and said maybe before it didn't have all of these. It increased a lot. So it took one square and it just duplicated all of those. That's all Photoshop did. So instead of having one square that represented that shade of red, it's going to plug in the additional 10 that you just asked it to, but it doesn't know what to do. So it's literally just going to put in the same exact color. So technically, yes, there's more pixels here, but there's not any more visual information. It's still, now you'll notice when you are full screen, it's blurry. You can see the pixels. So that's why I say you can't really increase it you can't increase the quality. It has to be from the photo. So that's what I always do. I always tell students you need to check in your image size. Look up here your pixel dimensions. If your pixel dimensions are somewhere in the thousands, you're probably okay. And then look here. If you have a 72 resolution, but you're way high in inches, it's cool. I always kind of, let me hit resample here. I always type in my resample and I see, can I still print that out to roughly an 8x10? Yes, I can. All right. So there's not a quick answer to it for your resolution, but that's what you need to know. That's the gist of resolution when it comes to Photoshop.